So in the past, I believe that black hair has been an issue. I think that it represented for mainstream media and for corporate America what they thought to be a lack of intelligence, what they thought to be ghetto and those kind of things, and we in the past had succumbed to that as a method for assimilating into a community. Into a society. I think that that's changed. I think people like myself, there's other brothers I know who do very well in corporate America, but wear their hair in locks, have begun to break the stereotype of how I look outwardly, determining whether I'm able to produce. We live in a society now that wants production. So my industry wants you to be able to put forward legislation and champion issues that disproportionately affect demographics throughout this city. And if you can do that and you look like me, it's less likely that you won't be accepted. In corporate America, they want people who can produce. So those brothers like myself who choose to look a particular way and who are in the door and who are able to land those accounts and who are able to produce at high levels and high volumes don't have those issues. It's still an old boys club, I'm clear. So white men still dominate most industry in the city, unfortunately. But I think we're starting to carve a way of being looked at as productive and as equal and less stereotypical.
But even Howard University said last year, or was it the year before, that they don't approve of locks, or that, I don't know, they made a kind of statement that, so, I mean, if you say like black hair isn't an issue anymore and Howard University is making...
I would agree that it's not as much of an issue, but I believe that there are old throwbacks, even in our society, like you mentioned, a Howard University or Clark, Atlanta, who believe that in order to assimilate, but those are schools that are trying to find ways to have their mission furthered, who are trying to find ways to get their young men into situations, and they believe that. Like I believe that they believe what they're saying. I just don't believe it's true. I believe they believe it though, and I believe wholeheartedly they believe that their access point begins probably too much on how you look, right? Is it true that the likelihood of myself and someone else competing for a role in corporate America, one with a closely shaven head or even a fade or whatever the case may be, and somebody with locks, who would get the opportunity before the other? Probably the one who is less likely, because we still have the idea, even in our own community, that if I have locks, I'm a troublemaker, I'm less likely to conform to what I'm being asked to do. So I'm a non-conformist. So even some of us believe that. So I think they believe what they believe, I just don't think it's true. I think that we're looking for more productive ways to be. Now, I can say that because although my hair is waist length, I wear it in a more conservative manner. Because, let's be real, I'm acutely aware that if I show up at 7 feet tall with 4 feet of hair, it's a little disturbing. What's more disturbing, me being 7 feet tall or having that much hair? I don't know. I haven't determined which one is more disturbing, but I am acutely aware that in certain rooms, the likelihood that they'll believe that I won't be able to conform to what I'm being asked to do based on my appearance is high. I choose to say I don't care. And I choose to say that the merit of my resume speaks volumes past how I look. But telling a young person who's starting out that they can do whatever they want no matter how they look would be less than truthful to say that. So we do still have some, we're still confined to some degree by how we look. But then I'm trying to illustrate the fact that you have somebody like me who has a broad appeal. But I'm in a city like New York. Does that work in Mississippi? Probably not. In New York, we've seen so many black men. Still, there's only 2 of us on the New York City Council, and none in the New York City Assembly, and none on a congressional level that are wearing their hair locked, right? So there's only 2 of us in the New York City Council, which has a body of 51 members, which is majority minority at this point. There's still only 2 males who wear their hair in this fashion. Again, I will be brutally honest and say I get away with it probably more because even in 4 feet or 5 feet worth of hair, I wear it in a conservative fashion that's less intrusive. That's intentional. That's intentional on my part. So it gets me to hold what I believe to be culturally significant, but to do it in a way that allows me to continue to do it. So if I wore literally, my hair is the same height as some people if I wore it out. Would that be intrusive in some settings? I believe it would. So I make a conscious decision to, although I love my hair and have worn my hair like this for 20 years, to do it in a manner that's less intrusive. But it still allows me to hold fast to my belief in my culture. So I'm not totally devoid of being conscious of its limitations, right? So I need to be fair with that. So I'm just not out waving my hair, in all settings, right? So let's qualify some of this conversation by the fact that I'm very calculated in the manner in which I even style my hair. So, let me qualify it by that. I believe in what I do. I believe in my culture. I believe in natural hair, but I'm also conscious of some of its limitations and consequently have found a median in between. So I get to hold fast to my culture, but I do have a stylist who works with me to make sure that it's consistent with what the message that I want to put forward is and consistent with my personality. So that's the only qualifying factor I would say. So if there was a young person who was watching this, who was growing their hair naturally, who was a black male in this country, who wanted to be the CEO of Goldman Sachs, I would say to him that yes, young man, you still have some limitations in the way that you wear your hair. And although I wear my hair natural and have done so and have had some monochrome of success, I'm still conscious of its limitations and I wear it in a conservative way. So I believe that I'm acutely aware that on a daily basis, whether I'm on the floor of the city council or whether I'm pushing forward a bill and I'm on Good Morning America, people are having an opportunity in seeing me to make a qualifying determination on locks and access, locks and intelligence. So that's a discussion going on every single day, and that's a responsibility that I'm willing to own. So, but it's a big responsibility. So I'm not just willy-nilly going out and I like my hair and it's fly. I'm acutely aware that people coming behind me, the young black and brown boys that are coming behind me who want to attain a certain level of success, but want to hold fast to their cultural beliefs through the way that they look in their hair, I have a responsibility to them to represent this particular movement well. So I'm looked at doubly, believe it or not, on what I'm doing. I'm based on the merit of my ability to push forward legislation, but to represent a whole genre of young men who'd like to embrace this part of their culture. So I'm not free, so I understand that. So I don't, this is not a freebie. Like I don't get to just be fly. I'm consciously aware that people are judging the young men that come behind me on their hairstyles based on the way I represent that hairstyle. It's a big responsibility, but I feel like I'm willing to do that so that a young man behind me can work at Goldman Sachs if the parameters suggest that, or can go to the federal government and work if there are no constraints within the document that limit the way that you can wear your hair. So you can't be judged or discriminated against to some degree because of your hairstyle choice. I realize that I bear some of that responsibility every single day. I think that some of the reasons that employers discriminate against, because that discrimination is based on stereotypes. I think that there are some industries or businesses that have found a way to, in their policies and procedures, exclude locks. And then there are some that do it outside of the parameters of a policy and a procedure. And I think we have to begin to go after those, because that's discriminatory practices. Looking at someone's policy in their hiring, if it doesn't include, very specific manners of dress and ways of wearing your hair. And some employers are really even being responsible employers and going back and redoing their policies, understanding now that natural hair shouldn't preclude someone from being employed in their company. If it's not food service and if it's not things that are health related, that your hair precludes you from working in those industries. As a legislator, I'm looking closely. You can trust that I'm looking closely at those people that are operating those businesses, that are operating outside of the fringes of policy and procedure, and are doing discriminatory things in their hiring. So the whole black hair movement to me is laughable, because I'm a child of the 70s, and I remember that generation and its commitment to the Afro and natural hair. And quite honestly, it was way more pronounced than anything we're doing today. So that movement where you were showing up with this giant afro at work during a time when the black man and black woman were having so much difficulty with employment and so much difficulty with acceptance in this country, really, they fought a way harder fight than what we're fighting today. Now, we are in a fight, but I always look at their struggle and the way that they wore their hair with pride in the face of outright blatant racism. So we're finding it, but it's masked racism at this point. They faced it, when they left with pride, when they left the house and they picked that afro out and they left with pride and went to look for a job or went to work to some degree. So when I think of the challenges that we face with this new black hair movement, I always remember that it's nothing compared to what the sisters and brothers faced in that struggle. So I'm always empowered by that to go on and wear my locks, because there were some people that went before me that, in the face of blatant racism and in the face of being different and in the face of not having the chemicals that we have today to do processes and all kind of stuff, what they had to do to lay their hair down back in the days, you could never convince some of us to do. So they faced, like with a lot of situations, really a way more upfront, in your face kind of aversion to black hair than we're facing today. But those sisters and brothers weathered that storm and did it with pride and dignity. So I'm proud to do what I'm doing and do my part in this time. And we should all be willing to look back at those pictures. Like, there's times that you look at pictures in your yearbook or pictures in your photo albums, and some of them are funny and cute. When I look back and I see my parents in afros and I see the community that stood up, the advocates in afros, I get a sense of pride. So it's not even funny, like, unless, you got that light blue velvet suit on with the bow tie that my dad had on, which that's funny. But his hair was such a tremendous statement of his independence. And those sideburns and that hair showed that I'm black and I'm proud. Like, that was that time. I think this movement has to get to that. Right now, we're a little sheepish with our I'm black and I'm proud. They said I'm black and I'm proud. And they wore that afro, and that was a significant tribute to their pride of being black. We're not really doing that. Like, we're on our hair movement, and we're on our hair grind a little bit, but we ain't doing what they did. they were saying, man, we black and we proud. We kind of living in this masked post-racial society where we don't have to say that. They felt the need to say that, look at me, look closely at me, I'm black and I'm proud. We want to do a kind of gentler version of that. So I'm a part of that movement. I appreciate it, I respect it. I believe that I'm doing my part to some degree with wearing my hair like this, and there's no chance of me changing it. But I'm acutely aware that some sisters and brothers prior to us did this with a level of pride and dignity that I think is unparalleled.
Do you have a last word for the movement or for Going Natural Video Diaries or for Going Natural itself?
I appreciate Going Natural Video Diaries for documenting this. I think that when you look back on the next generation of natural hair enthusiasts, they should have this to be able to chronicle the past of natural hair, the present of natural hair, and where natural hair is going in the future. I didn't sign on for this for anything other than pride and in my culture. And I'm just so glad to see that there's other people out there who think and believe that this is an important part of development for our communities. So I just want to get to a place where the level of pride of being black and proud is more pronounced than it is.